Hey everybody. So as you probably know, yesterday was the NHL trade deadline. Want to thank everyone who's tuned in for our live coverage of deadline day yesterday. It was a very quiet trade deadline, especially compared to past years, but it did kind of pick up at the end. The Anthony Mantha trade from Detroit to Washington kind of saved the day, but we did have live coverage on this channel yesterday for about 6 hours of deadline day and just talking about all the things that were going on. And had me, Perlo, Steele was on for a while, Peyton, Joe, everyone came on. And it was a pretty fun day, so I appreciate everybody who tuned into that and watched some of that deadline coverage. I do appreciate it. And what I'm going to do today is just kind of do a recap of the deadline and talk about the different trades that happened. Now, I already did a video about everything that happened on Saturday, so if you want to check that out, I will put a card up here somewhere at the top, and you can check that video out. The bigger trades that happened before this weekend all got their own videos as well. So we are going to start with Sunday and then yesterday as well, and just kind of recap all the things that happened here. So let's take a look, starting with these trades on April 11th, which was Sunday. We first had Jonas Siegenthaler to the New Jersey Devils from the Washington Capitals for a conditional third-round pick. So that I think was a pretty nice pickup for the New Jersey Devils, a young defenseman with some decent upside that the Capitals certainly didn't need anymore. But I think he'll get a chance to play in New Jersey and a chance to really do some good things there. John Merrill went to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Hayden Verbeek and a 5th-round pick. So, again, depth defense move there for the Montreal Canadiens. Then we got a big one here between the Maple Leafs, the Blue Jackets, and the Sharks came in to kind of broker this deal money-wise. The Toronto Maple Leafs went out and got Nick Foligno. Now, Nick Foligno is definitely the kind of player that I think the Leafs needed and could definitely benefit from. However, they paid a pretty hefty price for Nick Foligno. They had to send a 1st-round pick to Columbus along with a 4th-round pick. They also sent a 4th-round pick to the San Jose Sharks to financially broker the deal and take another 25% of Foligno's salary cap hit so that Toronto could fit him under the cap. They got Stefan Nason for that, but he's a depth guy that probably will not see NHL ice and is more of an AHL move. So, basically, they get Foligno, but they give up a 1st and 2 4ths to do it. Thought that was a hefty price, but the Maple Leafs are all in this year, and they are going to try and make a deep run and they're going for the cup. I mean, they're trying to win the cup this season, and Foligno brings a lot of grit, leadership, character to that team, and very, very good defensively. Doesn't bring a whole lot offensively to the table, but he's a very good defensive player and a very tough and gritty player as well that Toronto definitely would benefit from. This right here was a very underrated move, in my opinion, for the Boston Bruins, getting defenseman Mike Reilly from the Ottawa Senators for a 3rd-round pick. Mike Reilly is having a really solid season offensively this year, and I think that's exactly the kind of defenseman that the Bruins needed, a left shot guy who can drive a little bit of offense. And the way that Boston's been playing lately and the injuries on the back end that they're dealing with, they really needed to bring somebody in. And I think for a fairly low cost, like a 3rd-round pick, Reilly was a solid move for the Bruins. I like that one a lot. David Rittich also goes to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a 3rd-round pick for the Calgary Flames. This is just Toronto shoring up their goaltending situation. Obviously, Freddie Anderson is still injured. Jack Campbell is the starter right now, and Michael Hutchinson was the backup for Jack Campbell. Obviously, they're not overly confident with Michael Hutchinson being the 3rd goalie and maybe even the backup goalie in the playoffs. So they brought in Rittich to kind of shore up their goaltending situation, and that's way, they have Campbell, they have Rittich, they're kind of solid there. And then if Anderson comes back, he'll obviously be there, but even if he doesn't come back, they at least have Riddick and Campbell to hold down the fort and not have to rely on Michael Hutchinson. Very small deal here. The New York Islanders get Braden Coburn for a 7th-round pick from Ottawa. That's just a real organizational depth move there. I don't think Coburn will even come close to playing a game for New York unless there's like major injuries on the back end. But he's a taxi squad guy that is a veteran presence and could come in a bottom pair role if you were missing, like 3-4 guys out of your defensive lineup. That's just really an organizational depth move there. Then we had the big one. Late, basically midnight between the 11th and the 12th. The Boston Bruins go out and they get Taylor Hall from Buffalo along with Curtis Lazar for a 2nd-round pick in forward Anders Bjork. Now, I said all along that I did not want the Bruins getting rental players because I don't think the Bruins are winning the Cup this year, and I said I did not want them to get Taylor Hall. However, I did not expect the price to be this low for Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar. It's not like it's just Hall. They get Lazar as well. I actually really like the add-in of Curtis Lazar there. He is an upgrade on the 4th line over anyone that the Bruins are playing on the 4th line right now. So they get better in their bottom 6, and they add Taylor Hall to their top 6, which, again, talent-wise is an improvement. Am I completely sold that this is going to work out well? No, but it's an upgrade talent-wise. There is absolutely no question about that. And they did not have to give up a whole lot. Just a 2nd-round pick, and Anders Bjork, who was not cutting it for the Boston Bruins. He just never became the player that he was supposed to be when he was taken from out of Notre Dame by Boston. Just hasn't developed into the player and the goal scorer that he was supposed to. So I was fully ready for the Bruins to move on from Bjork. I'm glad they did. I like him being involved in this trade. The 2nd-round pick, it's a heck of a lot better than a 1st, and the price was so low for Taylor Hall that I guess I really don't mind the Bruins doing this as much as I thought I would. However, I am still not sold that this is going to all of a sudden make Boston infinitely better and make them one of the best teams in the league. I'm not sold on that still, but we'll see how it works out. I mean, that's all we can do is wait and see how it works out. But that was one of the biggest moves, Taylor Hall to the Bruins along with Curtis Lazar. Then Jeff Carter, early on deadline day Monday morning. Jeff Carter goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a conditional 3rd and conditional 4th-round draft pick. That's a really solid move for Pittsburgh, in my opinion. He can come in, be a 3rd-line guy on the Penguins, and be another veteran. With Malkin out right now, they definitely needed another center. Carter comes in and can play center. I really, really like that move, honestly. I think that's a solid 3rd-line addition for Pittsburgh, and he's going to help them in the playoffs. I think he's, especially with a talented team around him like the Penguins, I think that's going to help Pittsburgh for sure. Then we got into deadline day and the trades that I actually got to cover live. The first one was Adam Gaudette to the Chicago Blackhawks for Matthew Highmore. I know Gaudette hasn't had a good season this year, but I cannot believe the Vancouver Canucks made this trade. I mean, Gaudette is such a more talented player with so much more upside than Matthew Highmore. I mean, nothing against Matthew Highmore, but he's a 4th-line player and probably only ever going to be a 4th-line player in the NHL. Adam Gaudette has top 6 potential. He's still fairly young. He was very, very good in college, and while he hasn't exactly found it at the NHL level yet, there's still a lot of talent and upside potential there. That was a great trade for the Chicago Blackhawks, in my opinion. Not really sure what Jim Benning was doing there. Then Edmonton picked up defenseman Dimitri Kulikov from the New Jersey Devils for a 2022 conditional draft pick. And TSN doesn't have the pick listed, but I believe it's a 4th that could become a 3rd depending on the conditions, and I forget what those are off the top of my head, but I believe it's a fourth that could become a third, if I'm not mistaken. But Kulikov goes to the Oilers, and that's a defensive upgrade there for Edmonton. Obviously, they're going to the playoffs this year, and they're going to, try and bolster that defense a little bit. We had a minor league deal here between the Sharks and the Lightning. Frederick Claesson to the Lightning. I don't think he's going to play a game in Tampa Bay. This is more of an AHL move, so not going to spend a lot of time on that. Goaltender Magnus Crona, I'm not sure how you say that. He goes to the Sharks. Again, that's not affecting your NHL team there, at least not right now. Then we had a pretty big one here between the Blackhawks and the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas picks up forward Matthias Janmark from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2021 second-round pick and a 2022 third-round pick. So Chicago, who had a very nice deadline this year, picks up a couple of picks for Janmark. And then a fifth, I guess, goes back to Vegas as well. But San Jose was involved in this as well. Kind of to broker the deal money-wise. So if you see down here, Chicago traded Matthias Janmark to San Jose for defenseman Nick DeSimone. San Jose then traded Janmark to Vegas for Buffalo's fifth pick. Okay, so actually the fifth round pick goes to San Jose. Janmark goes to Vegas, and then Chicago gets the second and the third. I think. I don't know. This was a weird trade with three teams involved. San Jose traded Janmark to Vegas for Buffalo's fifth-round pick in 2022, which they had already acquired. Chicago traded DeSimone then and Chicago's fifth-round pick to Vegas for Vegas. Oh, okay. So, no, Vegas gets... There's another fifth-round pick involved here that TSN does not have listed, and that went to the San Jose Sharks. Chicago sends DeSimone and a fifth-round pick along with Janmark to Vegas, and Chicago gets a second and a third-round pick. So that was kind of a complicated trade there, but from an NHL standpoint, what you need to know is Matthias Janmark is now a Vegas Golden Knight, and Chicago got a couple of pretty decent draft picks out of it. Avalanche reacquire forward Carl Soderberg, who has played for them in the past, in exchange for Josh Dickinson and Ryder Rolston. So Dickinson's a guy that spent most of his career between the ECHL and the AHL, probably never going to make the NHL. Ryder Rolston was a fifth-round pick, currently playing at the University of Notre Dame. He's still only, I believe, 19 years old, so a very young prospect there, but not a high blue chip prospect or anything like that, but we'll see if he becomes anything for the Chicago Blackhawks. It's definitely possible. Soderberg, veteran depth guy, goes to the Avs. He can play on your third or fourth line. He can play center or wing. Solid depth forward there for Colorado as they gear up for a playoff run. Then we had a pretty big trade here between Florida and Calgary. Florida Panthers get Sam Bennett from the Flames, along with a sixth-round pick in exchange for forward Emil Heineman and a second-round pick in 2022. So Heineman was a second-round pick in last year's draft in 2020. So the Flames got 2 second-round picks for Sam Bennett and a sixth-round pick, which again is just kind of a throw-in. So that's a big get for the Panthers, who are gearing up for a playoff run. Bennett is a notoriously good playoff performer. And for the Flames, they get a couple of second-round picks, which could certainly turn into decent players if they draft well with that pick, or if Heineman was a solid pick in last year's draft. Montreal makes another move for a depth defenseman, getting Eric Gustafson from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a seventh-round pick. I mean, I really don't know why Montreal wanted Gustafson. He's been awful this season, but they only gave up a seventh-round pick, so it really doesn't matter. Toronto looking for a depth defenseman as well. They get Ben Hutton from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a fifth-round pick. So I don't know if Hutton's going to be in their top 6 or if he's just being brought in as kind of an extra guy. I'm leaning towards him possibly being an extra guy, but if he plays over Travis Dermott, he might play on the third pair for Toronto. But again, depth defense pickup there by the Leafs. Nashville makes a depth defense move for Erik Goodbranson from the Ottawa Senators. They gave up Brandon Fortunato and a 7th-round pick for Goodbranson. I don't think Fortunato is ever going to be an NHL guy, so that's kind of a minor leaguer there, and then a 7th-round pick. Again, it's Erik Goodbranson. He probably doesn't play in Nashville's top 6. I think he's more of like a 7th or 8th depth guy for the Preds. The Maple Leafs send Alexander Barabanov to San Jose for Antti Suomela. So a little bit of a forward swap here between the Leafs and the Sharks. Again, depth pieces, nothing big. Carolina trades Hayden Fleury to the Anaheim Ducks for Yanni Hakanpää and a 6th-round draft pick. I really like this move for the Anaheim Ducks. Hayden Fleury was a high draft pick, a talented, still fairly young defenseman who really, just because of the depth that the Hurricanes have on the back end, could never really play a big role with the Canes. He's a really nice pickup, I think, for the Ducks. I like that move a lot for them. Washington gets Michael Raffl from Philadelphia for a 5th-round pick, a depth forward addition here for the Capitals, 4th-line type guy. We'll see where he plays in their lineup, or maybe he's an extra forward if they don't want to break up the 4th line that they currently have, but we'll see. That's a nice depth move there for a veteran. Winnipeg grabs Jordy Ben from the Vancouver Canucks for a 6th-round pick. Now, I was very surprised that Winnipeg didn't do more, adding a bigger name top 4 type defenseman, but they went for the depth move with Jordy Ben. He's kind of a number 6, number 7 type guy. Bottom pair for sure. I thought Winnipeg would go bigger than that, but I guess the right deal wasn't out there. Vancouver picks up Madison Bowie from the Chicago Blackhawks along with a 5th-round pick in exchange for a 4th-round pick. So Bowie's only played 2 NHL games this season. He's really struggled to really make it as a consistent NHL player. I don't know if Vancouver thinks they can make him more than that or what the deal is, but this I thought was kind of an interesting trade for the Canucks. Again, really not sure why they wanted Madison Bowie, but it is what it is. And that brings us now to the final trade of yesterday's deadline, which was an absolutely massive one and kind of saved the day as far as like big deals go. Anthony Mantha from the Detroit Red Wings to the Washington Capitals in exchange for Jakub Vrana, Richard Ponik, a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick back to the Detroit Red Wings. And boy, is Stevie Y an absolute genius. I mean, this is an unbelievable move for the Detroit Red Wings to not only get Vrana, who you could say is just as effective of a player as Anthony Mantha has been over the past 2 seasons, but you also get a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick for as well. Now, Richard Ponik is just a throw-in. He was waived by the Capitals earlier this season. He doesn't have much left in the tank, I don't think. That was a throw-in move. But to not only get Vrana, but also get a 1st and a 2nd for Mantha, that is absolutely massive for the Detroit Red Wings. Now, Vrana is an RFA at the end of the season, but Detroit shouldn't have any problem re-signing him. Now, why I think that the Capitals did this was they weren't going to be able to sign Vrana at the end of the year. With their cap situation, they knew that they weren't going to be able to afford Vrana at the end of the season, so they might as well trade him and get something for him. Also, Mantha has 3 years left on his contract, so he signed a 4-year deal. He has 3 years remaining after this one, so he's locked up. Like, Vrana was going to be gone at the end of the year. Mantha is locked up for the next few years. So, in that way, it does help it does make sense for the Capitals. I just think they gave up a whole lot to get him. That 1st and 2nd, like, if that was Vrana and a 2nd for Mantha, or even Vrana and a 1st for Mantha, that makes it better. But to give up the 1st, the 2nd, and Vrana for Anthony Mantha, and Mantha's had 2 down seasons in a row now with the Red Wings. Now, obviously, he's going to be playing with much, much better players in Washington than he was in Detroit, but and on a much better team as well, but he's had 2 down seasons in a row now compared to where he was supposed to be. And the other thing is the injury issue with Anthony Mantha. He has struggled to stay healthy in his NHL career. Now, he has so far this season, but he's had a lot of injuries already in his career where he's missed, weeks at a time for Detroit. So I like Anthony Mantha, and I think he's going to be a good player for the Capitals. I just think that they gave up an absolute ton to get him. An absolute ton to get him. And that's a move that I think a lot of people are looking at as an overpayment for the Washington Capitals. But yesterday was trade deadline day. Those were the trades that we got. It overall was a rather quiet deadline day. There wasn't a whole lot going on. The Mantha trade was obviously the biggest trade of yesterday. The Hall trade the night before was the biggest trade of Sunday. But overall, it was a rather quiet deadline. But that was just a recap going through all the moves that were made over the past couple of days. There will be no more trades in the NHL this season until the offseason. The deadline has passed. And what you have is what you've got now for all these NHL teams as we head towards the playoffs here. So, again, thank you to everyone who tuned in for the live coverage yesterday. Thank you to everyone for watching this video. And I'll be talking to you guys soon. So, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store, donation link, and channel memberships are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.